Some people never grow in the Lord because they have a habit of running away from difficult situations. When God puts them in these situations for training and growth, they rebel and they run away. They had problems with their parents as teenagers. They rebelled and ran away from home. Then they grow up a little bit, they get a job, and they have problems with their colleagues and bosses. What do? They quit. And since they are in Norway, they get married, go into relationships, have conflict. Instead of growing and training and facing their demons, what do? They quit. They run away from the marriage, or they just walk away. Then they go for counseling, but they don't like the counselor and what the counselor is telling them. So they do what? They change. They say, I don't like this one. Let me try another one. They try another one. It's not putting up together. They walk away again. They join a church, but they can't get along with the people. Or they don't like some people or some things in the church they have joined. What do they find? They say, Oslo is big. I can find another church. So they go to another church, but guess what? Immediately they enter that church, they discover that churches are the same. They have the same problems. So they are moving from one church to another, and finally, they say, I can go to online church, where I have no problems. I just sit in my room, log online, and join. You know, the problem is, they have never learned submission. They have not learned to submit to God and allow God to use the authority structures that He has ordained, to sandpaper off their rough edges. God sees our need in our affliction, but then He says, sometimes He calls us to submit to Him in the difficult situations where He has, in His own sovereignty, placed us. Unless you submit, you're going ahead to more danger in the desert. No, your blessings unless you submit. Look at this picture. Next one. This mouse has a very interesting story. It was put in that cage for protection because there was a cat that was hovering around. So the owner said, because I love you, because I need you, because I'll protect you, there's danger around you, please stay in this cage. I'll feed you, I'll give you food. But the rat said, no, I can't be a slave. I will eat this metal until I break free, because I don't want to be a slave. And you know the bad news. When she ate and broke away, the cat was waiting. And that was the end. And sometimes, I'm not saying always, I'm not here to say stay in toxic relationships or stay in toxic places of work. Sometimes God calls us to walk away. But the reality is sometimes God calls us to stay and submit. Because sometimes the problem is not actually people mistreating us. The problem is our attitude. This 62. The Lord will hold you in His hand for all to see, a splendid crown in the hand of the Lord. You and me can never run away from the presence of God. Even when we have done mistakes, like this girl, and we find ourselves in difficult situation and we know this is for me to blame, I can take it. Remember, even in that place of darkness, that place of difficulty, God is holding you in his hand. He cannot let you go. This girl was not praying and submit. Is there something that God is challenging you this afternoon that you need to submit? Is there some anger and protest in your heart? And you know that you're walking on a dangerous path because you're walking away from God. You're walking away from your friends. Some of you are thinking even walking away from important relationships that God has placed you. And even some of us may be even thinking of walking away from the church because you feel like, it's toxic here. And maybe God sent this African guy to come and remind you this afternoon that before you're mad at everybody, even including God, look at yourself. And maybe God is giving you an opportunity and saying, my son, my daughter, I love you so much. You're still in my hands, even if you don't feel it. But I need you to submit. You need to go back and say, I am sorry. Some of you are like, I would rather die. I don't need those relationships. I don't care about them. Some people we used to say, I'll never forgive you. The only place we will meet is in heaven. Where? Which heaven? Would you meet with somebody you have not forgiven? Maybe some of you, God is calling you to go back and take the hard decision to go back and say, I am sorry. Irrespective of how proud you are. I know your ego will be broken. You will feel like shaking. How can I go back to that guy and say, I'm sorry? Not me. But maybe God is saying the path you're walking is dangerous. You need to submit and say, I am a human. I can make mistakes. I am sorry. God, I need your blessing. Some of us may be praying and asking God for something, and maybe it's not coming. Maybe what is hindering your blessing is because you're too proud. You're full of yourself. You are so potential. God has really put so much talent on you. But what is hindering you from growing and having this, this splendid crown on your head is your attitude. So your attitude is determining your altitude. You're sitting down there while you should be here. Being a blessing to so many people, but you're saying, they hurt me. I'll never sing again. Let them do what they want to do. I'll not preach. I'll not involve myself again in that small group because, they said something about me. God is calling you. No. Yes, they are human beings. We need to submit. Go back so that we can enjoy the blessing that God is giving us. God is calling us to humility.